Here's Brody Brazil.
I totally understand the sentiments of Giants fans right now when they look at their team and question how it has spent money and is going to spend on the team moving forward. And why not? In a transitional period, brand new manager, maybe a different style, different approach of players or execution on the field. But when you ask the question, how should the Giants spend? It's really twofold. As in, number one, like, how much actual money should they spend? We'll definitely get into that part. They're actually pretty close, I think, to where optimally they want to be. I know the easy thing to do is say, well, just spend a little bit more and you'll get a lot more. And sometimes that does work out that way. But as you'll find out, there is a happy medium, and there's definitely a proper window of kind of how much to spend based on 2023 examples. But also, where should you spend that money? Like on what type of player, what status of player, what position of player, and that's something we'll get into later on in the video. So just going back to the old how much should they spend question, here's a look at 2023. Every big league team, what their opening day payroll was on players in green, how many regular season wins they had in blue, and then a Y or an N, as in yes or no, that they made the playoffs or not. Man, the Mets, Yankees, and Padres. Oof. Like around 500, a little bit above for the Yankees and Padres, but none of those teams, I mean, look how much money that is together. And none of them made the playoffs. And they spent even more than that, at least the Padres did as the season went along. The Phillies, they're the highest spending team from opening day to actually get in the playoffs, and even they did not get to see the World Series. A 90-win season, pretty respectable, cost them $243 million. The Dodgers, $222 million on opening day. They got to 100 wins, but didn't get them where they wanted to be in the postseason. Not even close. The Angels, oh my goodness, $212. Trout and Ohtani, and I get it, some health issues for both those players, but what did you surround them with? And you won 73 games. Another sub-500 team or season for the Halos. Didn't make the playoffs. Toronto and Atlanta both made the playoffs. Both spent a little bit over 200. By the way, all the teams you're seeing here are in the $200+ million threshold, which, look, 4 teams made it. 4 teams didn't make it in terms of just the playoffs. And for me, that's where it starts. That's what you're paying for. You're paying for a chance to be in the playoffs. At that point, a little bit of luck takes over, a lot of talent takes over, but you're just trying to get enough wins to get to the playoffs and be well-suited. Toronto and Atlanta, just a little bit above 200 million, 89 and 104 wins respectively for Atlanta, and they don't get nearly as close as they want to being in the World Series. $203 million spent by Atlanta on opening day. Okay, so that brings us to the $150 million plus spending teams. Texas Rangers, they started at 195, and obviously they went in even deeper, and they won the whole World Series. So look at those top 8 teams didn't even win the World Series. The number 9 spending team overall did win it all, and they were very close to spending what the Astros spent. And the Astros got pretty far. Both had 90 regular season wins. So this is how close the Giants are, and they're obviously highlighted here. It kind of shows you that there is a window just below and just above about $200 million, which gives you a pretty good chance. I mean, we just saw 4 teams make it on the prior page. They were on the bottom half of that page, and then here's 2 on the top. So 6 teams, right, of the playoffs, half the playoff teams come from the right around $200 million mark. That's the happy window, which we'll discuss in a second. Giants spent 188 on opening day, 79 wins, obviously didn't even crack 500, didn't make the playoffs, and they're kind of the closest team. They're that close, I mean, not in wins, but in spending and being and hovering right there to being in that next group. And obviously, where you spend the money, also important. But following the Giants, look at the Cubs and Red Sox and White Sox and Cardinals and Colorado. There's a lot of disappointment there for teams that almost Well, spent closer to $200 million than they did $150. And look at the win totals. 61 for the White Sox, 71 for the Cardinals. It was an abnormally bad season in St. Louis. The Rockies, 59 wins. You spent $171 million on 59 wins. I mean, I know Giants fans love that. They're in the division. So you got to spend on the right places, but there is a happy medium in spending. Then you get to Minnesota, up-and-coming team. Only spent $153, but did get 87 wins. So, 8 more than the Giants. They made the playoffs. They got in, finally got over the hump of winning some postseason games. Here are the $90 million plus teams from opening day. So from 92 to 137. Seattle's in there. They were close. They didn't make it. Tigers only won 78 games. Milwaukee and Arizona obviously got in. The Diamondbacks, they just, they caught lightning in the end. Lightning in a bottle in the end. 84 wins cost them only $116 million. That's pretty darn efficient. But if you want to keep Arizona around, you're going to have to spend a little bit more over the years to bring those players back. Right? So it's also about where you're at in terms of how much you're spending. Kind of same thing with the Brewers. 92 wins, that's pretty good. But if you want to keep that going, it's going to cost you. The Nationals spent about $100 million, 71 wins. Kansas City spent $92 million to get only 56 wins. Obviously not in the playoffs. Marlins were a good story. 84 wins. They only spent $92 million to get into the postseason. And then we get to Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh, all sub $90 million teams, $90 million. Tampa and Baltimore. I mean, there you go. Those are some exceptions right there. And Baltimore was an amazing story. I don't know that anybody saw that coming yet, but Baltimore's going to have to be, or they're going to be in a decision-making process. They've got some players that have just come up in the last couple of years, and eventually, if they want to stay good, they've got to keep those players. They've got to pay those players. They will not be in the $60 million range if they keep those players. And there's the Oakland A's, $56 million, 50 wins. Their season was over basically in the first month of games. So it goes to show you can be, the 28th and 29th teams in spending from opening day made the playoffs. So it's possible, but I don't know that it's sustainable. There is the happy window. The Giants are not far from that. I get it. They want the team to spend more. They want the team to go for it. And it is okay to star chase. We will get to that part in just a second. But what do you spend on? One of two things. You either spend to import talent, like sign a free agent, or you spend to retain players on your team. And I totally understand looking at the Giants roster last year, some of their highest paid players were definitely not their highest contributing players in any sense. And I'm not even going to the detail of names and this and that. But I totally understand here why, if you want to clear some money up so that you can retain, because you have identified some pieces on your team. You've got an ace. You've got a catcher. You've got a closer. You've got a couple up-and-coming players that you want to retain. So you do have to prepare for that a little bit. But I also realize it's okay to import and it's okay to star chase at this point. Look, the Giants, when great, have always had a centerpiece player. Obviously, Barry Bonds for so long. And when they transitioned into the new ballpark, it was him. And then Buster Posey was the next big thing in the 2000s. And you could say that there have been some players here and there. Buster hasn't been gone long, but there have always been additions. The Lincecums, the Bumgarners, the Matt Cains, and so on and so on. But it's okay to star chase Pablo Sandoval's in his time. It's okay to star chase. It's okay to put your name out there in the hat for Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa. Those didn't work out. That's fine. It is absolutely okay to go chase Shohei Ohtani. Why wouldn't you? From a baseball perspective, a track record perspective, but for a franchise perspective. I said you don't want to necessarily be one of the top spending teams. Like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. But if it's to get Ohtani or a known commodity, like you are star chasing at this point. It's okay because we know the Giants do well in those situations, and they will especially do well under Bob Melvin in those situations. He's joining them at the perfect time to bring some cohesion inside that clubhouse. And obviously, if you're asking me where to spend it on, you've got kind of the start of the top end of your rotation. I think you've got enough pieces in your bullpen. You need offense, right? You need a team that just does not go dry in late July, August into September. One of the worst in baseball, actually, for a really sustained period of time. So if you're going to spend this year, spend it on offense. You can spend it star chasing. Just remember that you're going to have to spend to retain eventually, right? But as for right now, spending to import and spending to stay in a happy window are all things to be sensible about. So how should the Giants spend? I tried to spell it out. How much and on who? You let me know when you think in the comments, what you think about this in the comments section below. You've made it here to the end of the video. You know I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.